Today on Locked On Red Wings, Detroit loses in Vancouver in what looked like a pretty uninspired hockey game.
You're Locked On Red Wings, your daily podcast on the Detroit Red Wings. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Red Wings podcast. We are your hosts, Brian Fisher and Scotty Bentley. I'm a podcast producer for the daily JAWWJ News Radio podcast, while Scotty's a host over at Locked On Tigers, as well as a freelance journalist for the Detroit News. And today's episode is pretty straightforward. We're going to be recapping this 4-1 loss to the Vancouver Canucks, and then in segment 3, previewing the game against the Calgary Flames, as this is Friday's episode, and that game takes place on Saturday. Scotty, I'd say happy Friday, but at 12:50 in the morning when we're recording this after Vancouver loss, it's hard to believe that it is a happy Friday.
Well, we do ball, I want to remind everyone. But yeah, man, it's almost 1 a.m. and that was a 3-goal loss. So
it wasn't just a 3-goal loss. It was like the most boring 3-goal loss I think I've ever seen. That's hyperbole, obviously, but it felt like a game where nothing happened.
Well, I mean, it was a relatively low shot total, all things considered, for both teams. By the end, I don't think either team hit 30, and if they did, it was garbage time stuff. Because with like 5 or 7 minutes left in the period, it was like mid-20s for both.
Wings outshot the Canucks 28-21 for the record.
Yeah, so there you go. I think it was like 24-20 with literally like 5 minutes left or something. So. Yeah, man, there was a lot that kind of happened, I guess, like between the lines, but as far as, we talk about low event hockey, this was a low event hockey game, but there was a lot of, stuff outside of the hockey events that, took place. It was a pretty chippy game. The Red Wings clearly had let the frustration boil over. I mean, that's like one of my biggest takeaways from this game, to be honest, is the frustration got to the Wings in this hockey game. You know what I'm saying? I mean, this was you saw sticks being broken left and right, like multiple sticks being broken off the boards and the glass and whatnot, and frustration penalty there at the end from Wallman, almost drops the glove with former Red Wing Pius Suter at the end of the game. I mean, that this was, if you want to talk about a frustration game, this really felt like kind of the epitome of that.
Yeah, it really did. I feel like because the team understands the weight of this road trip this
of
February,
point, man.
That losing back-to-back games against, albeit very tough teams, is probably extremely frustrating. It looks like Raymond's banged up as he was going to the bench and not playing or not like skipping shifts, but looked hurt, hunched over on the bench a couple times. Wallman didn't play a lot of ice time in this hockey game either. He actually had the least amount of ice time out of any defenseman.
Because he was out there for almost every single goal against. So, yeah, he was getting yanked a lot.
Yeah, and I think he also blocked a lot of shots, so I'm not sure how much is play and how much is injury.
Well, he also missed at least one shift, I think, with that, punch to the back of the head that had him bite the dust there for a bit.
Yeah, so I don't know. It felt like a game that couldn't end fast enough. It felt like at one point I was like, God, this game's got to be almost over. And it was 8 minutes left in the second period. We got to also, though, to keep with our consistency, right? We got to list our difference makers in this hockey game here in segment 1.
You want me to go first?
Yeah, Scotty, I'm gonna toss it to you. What's your first difference? Or what?
Yeah,
is your difference?
I mean, I guess the last 2 games have been losses, so I guess it's somewhat justifiable. But I'm gonna go with someone on the opponent's team yet again in Thatcher Demko being my difference maker. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. They flashed a stat at one point that I just want to reiterate here. So what I have is his season home splits. Okay. So his numbers in Vancouver this year, he is 17-3 with a 930. Those are his home stats. 17-3 in 20 games with a 930. That was going into this game. And then they showed in the middle of the game that he is like 9-0-1 or 9-1-0 in his last 10 home games with like a 940. So you're talking about a guy who, when he plays in, I mean, he's having a great year regardless, right? Overall, I think he's got a 918 on the season. Like he's been, he's 29-9 with a 918 going into this game on the year regardless. So this is a Vezina candidate. This is a guy who's been one of the best goalies in the league so far this year, but particularly and specifically in Vancouver, this dude is legitimately maybe the best goalie in hockey when he throws the pads on at home. So that is my difference maker, and the eye test passed all of those numbers I just gave you. If you watch this hockey game, that some incredible saves, a lot of high danger stops. The Wings, for as much as you had talked about how maybe looked uninspiring at times, and I talked about the frustration and whatnot. They were 2 like circus saves away from this being a tie game at one point. I know that's a slippery slope. You can't really play that game, but 2 specifically, the Kane kind of where Kane snuck up in the slot, and that was a crazy one post to the other save. And then obviously, I don't remember who shot it, but the one where he just grabbed it and cradled it like a baby, grabbed it with the puck with 2 hands and pulled it off from the back of the net. I mean, both of those, are, there you go. I guess to full circle, those were the difference makers in this game to me. So it wasn't without opportunity. The Wings were leading in shots for a majority of the game. They had their opportunities, but they went up against the guy who is in the middle of a pretty special and dare I say historic home stretch here. So.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you in terms of difference makers, Thatcher Demko. And I mean, I feel like if you're going to say Thatcher Demko, you can also say because, and the argument I'm going to make is just because there was such a low event hockey game that goaltending was huge for both sides, right? Thatcher Demko, obviously, huge stops. Daniel Sprong, the one you mentioned, Patrick Kane on the power play. On the opposite side, Alex Lyon, who we're so used to making big stops, letting a couple softies in this game. And in a game where there's not a lot of action, that's the difference, right? And
that's the thing with low event hockey, right?
Yeah, right.
To your point, like that's when you have that style where you're relying on low event hockey, you better have a goaltender who is who you're confident in net, because if neither team is going to have too many opportunities, you need to come out obviously on the other side of it.
Yeah. So I mean, Thatcher Demko made every save that he had to make, and Alex Lyon couldn't do that today. And I'm not piling on Alex Lyon. He's been fantastic for the Detroit Red Wings since in January, and obviously Edmonton and Calgary Edmonton and Vancouver rather are not great looks back to back. But it's just one of those games where that made the difference. So yeah, I agree. Thatcher Demko is one of those difference makers. My difference maker I'm going with though is the power play. Red Wings had 5 power play opportunities in this game. They didn't get a shot on net until the 4th power play. No goals. So it's not as if the Red Wings weren't gifted opportunities to score goals. And what's crazy too is, Scotty, like you can make the argument that their power play looked freaking fantastic. The first 3 at least. But the problem is, you can do all the passing you want and possess the puck in the offensive zone all you want, but if you're not getting shots, that doesn't do you any good. And I know that this team thrives on the east to west pass across the crease to try and bury, and it works most of the time. But if you're noticing the Vancouver Canucks are playing that very well, shooting the puck low and off goalies' pads to create chaos can also create opportunities. And they just refuse to do that in almost every single power play. Every single power play, they were just trying to do the same thing that's worked for them all year long, granted, but just wasn't working in this game, and you need to be able to adjust. And it wasn't until about the 5th power play that they finally just started shooting the puck and seeing what could happen. But that time it's too little too late. You got 3 straight power plays in the second period or something ridiculous like that, or was it the first period rather? Yeah, first period, you had 3 power plays and you didn't get a single shot on net. And you needed a goal badly in the first because you were down 2-0 because of previously stated kind of soft goaltending, but poor defense, whatever you want to call it. So while Thatcher Demko on the Vancouver Canucks side was their difference maker, the Red Wings power play, which has been historically good, top 11, I think you said yesterday going into the game, just was not relevant in this game whatsoever.
For sure, man. Yeah, it's There were some whiffs, right? Like that. I remember there was one specifically where Ghost had a nice little swing and a miss there on a power play with a shot opportunity. And then somebody else, who I don't remember who the player was right on their side of the net, just completely swung and missed. There was also some sloppy passing at times in this game. There was obviously we'll talk, I'm sure, about Jeff Petrie here. You could argue was a difference maker in the first half, especially of this hockey game, for all the wrong reasons. But yeah, some slot, even not just even picking on Petrie, whole team had a lot of giveaways in this hockey game as well.
Well, yes, and we have to move on here into segment 2, but you mentioned the passing, and I just wanted to tack on that. I completely agree. The passing in this game at times was like the looks were there. And I think I said this to a friend of mine. They have looked like they're in the right spot before the first goal happened. And that kind of knocked Red Wings off their game. They were playing well prior to that turnover and that goal against.
Yeah.
They were putting themselves in the right position. They were pressuring, but their passes were just off. And there's been a few games like that this year where the passing just hasn't clicked. That's what it mean. Like there were sporadic chances and Demko stopped those, but outside of that, it really didn't feel like they were really getting anything going all game long.
Yeah.
We'll continue this whole conversation in segment 2, obviously. So stay tuned to Locked On Red Wings. Got to talk to you guys today about eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more, whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, Scotty, you're burning rubber.
Not cash.
Not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Segment 2, Locked On Red Wings podcast. Scotty, we're going to move on to notable performers here. There's a lot kind of to talk about in this game in terms of like not necessarily players individually. Players, yes, but not just players individually that kind of had, notable performances, which is why it's called that.
Wow.
You set up going into segment 2, though, that you wanted to talk about Petrie. Let's go ahead and do that.
Sure.
I was texting you probably in the second period, right after he took that double minor high sticking penalty, that he might end up being the difference maker in this hockey game because Red Wings at that time down 2-1, I believe. If they were to go down 2-0, you're right. Down 2-0. I'm like, if the Red Wings go down 3-0 here, or 4-0 because it's a double minor.
Yeah, it was 2-0 heading into a 4-minute.
Petrie would have directly caused 3 goals against. He did not look good in this hockey game. Again, not to say that anyone else. I have a few shout outs for guys who looked good.
Yeah, no one really thrived.
No one really thrived in this game, but Petrie was notably rough.
Again, and especially the first half of the game. That first period and a half, I mean, the double minor back to back, not exactly back to back, one was in the first period, one was in the second, but that just being kind of paired with the turnover, the just awful clearing attempt that ended up costing a goal, not even just trying to get it out of the zone. And that along with that, obviously the defense, Wallman was out there for most of the goals against when they actually were scored. So I guess, to be fair to everybody here, it wasn't like it was all just Petrie. But as far as, notable plays, he was maybe had the 2 worst plays of the game in the first 15 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, that turnover, I know he was under pressure.
Minutes.
Yeah, I know he was under pressure, but don't just throw it up the boards. Like, get it off the glass at the very least if you're going to try and clear it. Like, it was just I've seen pizzas better than that in my beer league. Like, that, oh my goodness, that was really, really, really bad. And then obviously obviously the high sticking was completely accidental, but it just like piles on to what has already been a rough game for Petrie. If he makes contact on that puck and doesn't whiff, it's considered follow through and is not a penalty. That's the
Yeah,
crazy part. He
right.
doesn't whiff on that. But thankfully, one of my other notable performers bailed him out of being a difference maker, and that's the penalty kill. Penalty kill looked fantastic. Didn't get a lot of action in this game. I believe that was the only penalty. Only penalty in the last 2 games was that double minor. But the penalty kill has been sneakily one of the best things about their Red Wings season thus far. You don't talk about it a whole lot because everyone's mind's on goal scoring, who's scoring goals, who's assisting goals. But the penalty kill has been incredible since the year turned over, and it has not stopped. Killed off 4 straight minutes of 5-on-4 hockey against the Vancouver Canucks. Michael Rasmussen, repping the A in his hometown, was absolutely stellar on it. The whole penalty kill looked great. It's just completely clicking. But Michael Rasmussen he had a really good game on the penalty kill. I can't really say anyone had a great game offensively or in the offensive zone. Dylan Larkin had some looks. JT Compher had 5 shots. But, I mean, outside that, like...
Larkin also had some really bad giveaways.
He did. At the end of, like, the 5th power play, instead of just shooting it in the slot, he tried to pass it to a guy, and it went right into the feet of the guy right in front of him. But regardless... if I'm going to sing the praises of anything, it's the penalty kill, again, being really, really good. But, I mean, that's one thing in a game where it felt like nothing was going well or going their way.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. The penalty kill, man, ever since they had that streak where they didn't give up a penalty kill goal for however many games it was, 6 or 7 games, I want to say. Ever since that, they've been kind of on fire and really clicking on all cylinders. Been one of the bright spots of the team for sure. The PK, from the first month or 2 months of the season to now has only just gone up the rankings for the NHL. So yeah, man, that's obviously if we want to talk about some other things that went right in this game, that's certainly one of the few.
Yeah, and obviously JT Compher scored the lone goal for the Detroit Red Wings.
Man, I'll tell you what. Again, not a whole lot of good. I thought Compher was at least he looked fast. Like he looked really, really fast in this hockey game. I don't know if he was just buzzing or what, but he was skating really, really well in this one.
Yeah, I mean, I thought he was generating some offense. Obviously, he scored a goal, but I mean, outside the goal, he was generating offense, getting the puck behind the net, especially looking for outlets out front. He had he rung one off the post on the first power play in the game, so it's still not technically a shot because he rang it off the post.
Right.
But he was this close to giving the Red Wings a 1-0 lead, and who knows how it plays out if they get a 1-0 lead. I really think that Petrie giveaway really changed the tune of that hockey game from there on out.
And then frustration boiled over, right? You have Petrie is clearly frustrated after that play, and then obviously after the high stick as well. But then you have like Raymond really frustrated in the second half of the game in the third period specifically. You have Wallman unbelievably frustrated in the third period of this game. No call when he, thought he got he did get hit in the back of the head there and kind of hit the deck and nothing was called. He got upset. Then almost dropped the gloves with Pius Suter. Like, I mean, there was a lot of frustration. Larkin, slammed his stick against the boards at one point, or off the glass at one point. Raymond snapped a twig, man. Raymond, like, what?
He was really mad.
Yeah, he got just on a line change. He was just coming off the ice on a line change and just completely broke a stick, man. Yeah, like there was a lot of tension and a lot of just frustration boiling over on the Wings side tonight.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of that frustration really felt like it came in the third. Historically, obviously, this season, the Red Wings have done a really good job of pushing in the third period, getting back into hockey games. And this is, it's not a sustainable way of winning hockey games, and it didn't work out in this one. I thought that a lot of that frustration came. They just could not possess the puck in the third period, and defensively, and this was a thing all game long. But I felt as if the Vancouver Canucks got the puck in the offensive zone, and the Red Wings could not get it back. It was keep away for 2 straight minutes before the Red Wings would get the puck out to the neutral zone turn it over, or cross the blue line, turn it over, come back and do the same thing. They weren't able to pin guys against the boards, initiating board battles to win those. They were just chasing guys the entire time. And the Vancouver Canucks cycled through them like a hot knife through butter. And so when they did get the puck, they would struggle to then break through into the neutral zone, into the offensive zone. And if they did, very rarely did it end up with any sustained pressure that would generate a shot or two shots. I know that they technically outshot them in the third period and in the game, but it really didn't feel like they could generate anything. And I think that's where a lot of that frustration came from, is they knew that they were down. They knew the gravity that this game had, and they just couldn't get anything going. But at the same token, like, I don't know, Scotty, this was an important game, but also because like we talked about it after the loss to Edmonton, the response they would have against Vancouver was going to be important. And they didn't respond that great. 4-1 loss. They just really didn't look like they were gelling in this game. But at the same time, are we freaking out yet?
No, not for me, at least. I think the rest of the roadie will kind of determine a lot of that. I don't know. If you would have told me 2 weeks ago that we were going to split the series with Vancouver on the year, given Vancouver's season, I think I would have taken that 100 times, right? I think I would have taken that every day of the week and twice on Sunday. It sucks that this and the Edmonton game are back to back. Obviously, every point matters right now, but I'm certainly not freaking out yet. That's kind of, and we'll talk about Calgary. That's a very, very important hockey game you're about to play on Saturday. Yeah. Let me tell you, we'll talk about that on the other side of the break. But yeah, I'm not in panic mode yet. But and like I said, if you would have told me that, you know, you were gonna split these last two games with Vancouver being so close together, there, I probably would have taken it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. You know what? I'm going to hold on to my thoughts because it's kind of inherently intertwined with Calgary. Yeah. We have some stuff to talk about from this game that we'll see if that'll carry over to that game against the Flames. What, a 3:30 game on Saturday? It's a matinee out there, but it's middle of the afternoon.
I think our next two are 3 and 4.
Yeah, so 4:00 on Saturday and 3:30 on President's Day, which is Monday. So matinees out there, but here it's just the middle of the afternoon. It's the middle of the day. So we'll talk about that in segment 3 of Locked On Red Wings. How would you like to get to know someone better in an hour than you would in a year? Understanding one another better prevents small misunderstandings from becoming big ongoing fights. After providing more than 20 years of service to small and mid-sized businesses, helping management groups navigate conflict and onboarding new employees, Camino is offering a digital seminar for families and couples. Did your Valentine's gift of tickets to the game not go over as well as you had hoped? Get the couples and family online seminar for 25% off for the month of February using the discount code LOCKEDON. Again, that is discount code LOCKEDON, 25% for the rest of the month at www.caminoconsulting.ca, or mention Locked On when reaching out for a business seminar and receive the first 5 profiles free. Segment 3, Locked On Red Wings podcast. We're going to roll kind of the remainder of the conversation about Vancouver into our preview with Calgary. And I just want to respond. You know, you talked about your concern level. My concern level, if I were to give it out of 10, like 3.
That's pretty low.
It's pretty low, but I'll say this. It'll ramp up very quickly if they do not fix the issues that they're having.
That's where I'm at. And the reason these 2 games in a vacuum do not have me freaking out. It's if the next 2 games have a similar result that I will start panicking more.
Yeah, because you got to look at the context of everything, right? They were incredibly hot, unsustainably hot. I mean, 9-2-2 in the 10-2-2 when you include the overtime win against Vancouver to start the month of February.
Yeah,
that was not going to keep continuing. You go to the other side of the continent playing, you know, and then you have to adjust to time zones. You're playing against the best player in hockey and the hottest team in hockey in the Edmonton Oilers. Then you play the best team in the league by points and record in Vancouver Canucks again. those you could say are scheduled losses. And like you said, to steal one against Vancouver is great. So while I'm like looking at it and going, I mean, it sucks. They didn't play nearly as well as I had hoped. And like we say, if you want to be the best, you got to beat the best. My expectation was splitting the road trip. So if they can go and win against Seattle and Calgary, I'll be fine. But the problem becomes, because you dropped those first two games of the road trip, the next two become must wins, especially when you look at where all the other teams fall in the standings. Toronto won again, Tampa won a game. Both those teams pulled another 2 points ahead. So now you're behind in the wild card 1 and 3rd in the Atlantic Division. Thankfully, New Jersey lost, so they didn't tie you for points. Pittsburgh won, but they're still several points back. A lot of the teams chasing you lost on Thursday night, so that's great for you. So you lost, but you didn't lose any ground in the wild card race, but you lost ground in the divisional race, and that stings. So winning the next two games to me is really imperative, and you're going to be playing a Calgary team that just got pumped by the San Jose Sharks. Philip Zadina, 4-point night, 2 goals, 2 assists against the Calgary Flames.
1, 2, 3, 4, baby.
And I don't mean to, and that's the biggest thing, right? When we're talking about the Calgary Flames, Scotty, they're the weaker of the Calgary and Seattle, the weaker of the two teams of the 4 that you have faced, but they're not weak teams. They're still good hockey teams. So these aren't going to be, you're not going to walk into their barn and blow them out and you'll be all as good. These are still games that the Red Wings are going to have to perform well in. They have to. And now if they were to lose one or both of these games, I mean, my worry level then skyrockets to an 8 or a 9, because this is the same thing that happened last year, albeit it's happening a little earlier this year, right? Last year, early February is when they got hot, and then they fell apart at the end of the month. This year, they got hot through all of January. You can't afford to fall apart. Just I can't. I'm getting flashbacks. I'm at a 3 right now, but if they lose all 4, no, I am. I'm at a 3 right now, but I'm saying if they lose all 4 in the end, then my worry level climbs dramatically.
For sure. Yeah, no, I hear you. I think you have put yourself in a position where your back is kind of against the wall, and you really need to go out there and win these next 2 games. And as you said, going into the road, split this West Coast road trip. And I think that everyone would kind of calm down a lot more, myself included. But yeah, man, I think you make a great point there. There's a big difference between a bad hockey team and just a hockey team that's worse than the Canucks and the Oilers. There's a big gap between those two sentiments. So yeah, man, these are not gimme games. These are still tough teams that are, kind of in the middle of the pack. Seattle trying to climb back into a wild card spot. Yeah, man, these are very far from just, we got the 2 hard teams out of the way. Now we get to play the 2 easy ones. That's not the case. They're easier than 2 of the best teams in hockey is not easy. So you better show up, man. You seriously, these are, and that was a question I was going to ask you, and you kind of answered it there already. But are these must win? And not even, we don't even have to look ahead at Seattle. Is Calgary just in a vacuum? Is that a must win hockey game?
It feels ridiculous saying that with how well they played in January, but the fact of the matter is all the teams that you're chasing and or chasing you had great Januaries too. So yeah, they're must win, because you have got to keep pace in the wild card race. You don't want to slip out of it. You don't want to then be having to be the team that climbs in. You want to stay ahead. And so winning Calgary, then winning Seattle is must win. I do firmly believe that. And they're going to have, we got some updates on some players, obviously. So we found out that Robbie Fabry missed. His personal reasons was that he had a daughter. Congratulations to the Fabrys. I wonder if she's going to have his eyebrows, because he's got some crazy eyebrows. Ville Husso is week to week. They did say, Trevor Thompson reported during the Red Wings broadcast, it is a different lower body injury than the one that set him out the first time, which I don't know if that makes it better or worse. But regardless, Husso's out week to week. And I do wonder, because we talked a little bit in the first segment with Alex Lyons' back-to-back performances. Now, again, he was kind of thrown to the fire, thrown to the wolves in Edmonton. He was backing up that game, so he came in cold. But you do wonder if because of these two performances that were both lackluster, I mean, the JT Miller goal, obviously the Petrie turnover was awful, right? Awful. And you can't give a shooter like JT Miller all that time and space, but he took that shot from fairly far out and beat Lyon clean. The same thing happened on, I think, Elias Lindholm's first goal. That shot came from right across the blue line. And yeah, I know that woman was in front, but that shot came from so far out, you can't get beat. And even Larry Murphy mentioned that Lyon wasn't set. So he didn't have the best of game against Vancouver Canucks either. You wonder if Reimer gets the start in net. And I'm not advocating for it by any means, but it's just a thought that I've had that maybe they give Lyon a night off because maybe they're realizing, okay, maybe we did run him into the ground a little bit. And Husso was supposed to alleviate that, but he got hurt. So what are you supposed to do? But we got the updates on both those guys going into this game. And
last time we tried to predict who would be in net for a game, we were the most wrong I think you could possibly be.
Right. So. Right. I don't know. This Calgary Flames team isn't a cakewalk, right? I mean, the Red Wings have already beaten them once this season, pretty decisively too, way early on, the third or fourth game. I think it was like 5-2, something like that. They got pretty good spread out scoring, but no one's really dominating. Nazem Kadri's got 45 and 54. Blake Coleman's got 43 and 54. Sharon Govich has 36 and 54. And after that, it kind of drops off dramatically. And in that, Markstrom's got a .916 save percentage. That's really what's been keeping them in the wild card hunt in the Western Conference is Markstrom's performance. And it sounds like he's going to get traded. I don't understand what the Calgary Flames are doing.
Yeah, I don't know. Their last like 2 years need to be studied by scholars because it's been a whirlwind over there. But this is a team that's pretty middle of the road in most stats, except for their special teams are very hit or miss. They have one of the worst power plays in the NHL, but one of the 3 best penalty kills in the NHL. So you got an interesting dynamic on their special teams there. But yeah, pretty much everything else is rather middle of the road. Nothing's really bad. Nothing's really at the bottom, again, outside of their power play. And nothing is uber fantastic either, again, outside of their penalty kills. So
it's a winnable game.
You still have talent on this team, though. You know that for as much talent as they've lost over the last 2 years, there is still talent left, and they're still kind of in the thick of things, in the middle of that, like you said, trying to climb their way up, I guess, in that wild card race. And this is very far from a gimme.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do wonder, too, speaking of carryover from the Vancouver game, if the line blender is going to come back out, because we saw that in the game against Vancouver. We didn't really talk about
Vancouver, yeah. Geez, man.
DeBrincat got demoted to line 2. Demoted is not the right word to use. He got moved to line 2 to play with Kane and Comfer. Sprong jumped up to the top line to play with Raymond and Larkin, and Perron got bumped down to the 3rd or 4th line. They mixed everything up. Wingers got just line blendered in there, and even the pairs got, because of Woolman's play or injury, whatever it was. The pairs saw a bunch of different looks. I saw Sherratt with Woolman. I saw Gostisbehere. Not Sherratt with Woolman. Sherratt with Sider. I saw Gostisbehere, I think it was with Snyder.
Sider for a shift.
Everyone was with Sider for a shift or two, it seemed. So yeah. I'm really curious to see if they mix that up following back-to-back kind of dud games. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. Saturday is going to matter, man. Saturday is going to matter.
Big time.
So, any final thoughts? I think we hit on everything.
No, I think we covered everything we wanted to cover. Yeah, no, we ball.
We ball. We'll be back with a new game, new episode on Monday, recapping the game against the Calgary Flames and previewing the game against the Seattle Kraken. Of course, now I wonder maybe we should wait until after the middle of the afternoon game to put. We'll talk about it. So stay tuned either way to a Monday episode of Lockdown Red Wings.
Your team every day, weirdo.